I never thought my life would turn out this way. The years I spent working for my uncle, sacrificing my own happiness for the company, felt like they had all been in vain. My uncle was a proud man. He often said, "Family first." But in reality, he didn't care much about family at all, not when it came to business. For years, I had worked in the shadow of my cousin Martin. He always had the best of everything: prestige, attention, and the position that I never seemed to get, even though I'd been working harder than anyone. It wasn't just the promotion I had been denied. It was the respect. I did everything for that company, and yet it was always Martin's name on the top. My uncle's favor was like a curtain I could never lift. Then one day, everything changed. My uncle called me into his office. I knew this wasn't going to be a typical family talk. "Craig," he began with a cold smile, "Martin is now the new president. We're making some changes. You're fired." Those words hit me harder than anything in my life. I had been expecting something like this for years, but to hear it out loud from my own uncle, it stung. "Uncle," I tried to hold my composure. "I've given years of my life to this company. I built the projects. I brought in the clients. You can't just throw me away like this." But his eyes were already glazing over, as if he had made the decision long ago. Martin stood behind him, smirking, already looking pleased with the decision. My uncle didn't even try to make excuses. He just nodded at Martin, signaling it was over. My heart sank. As I walked out of that office, my mind raced. I was angry, confused, and hurt. But something inside me also woke up. I realized I had spent so long trying to prove myself in a company that didn't even value me. What was I waiting for? Why didn't I do this sooner? It was time to start something new. I called up my old friend Ray, who I had worked with briefly in the past. Ray had always believed in me, even when no one else did. He had a way of seeing potential where others only saw failure. "Ray, I've got an idea," I said, pacing around my apartment. "Let's start our own business." Ray laughed on the other side of the phone, but it wasn't the mocking kind of laugh. It was full of encouragement. "You're serious, huh? I like it. I'm in." And just like that, I had someone who believed in me. Together, we founded a marketing agency. We called it Craig Designs. It was a small start, just the two of us in a tiny office, but we were excited. For the first time in years, I felt like I was in control of my future. Starting a business wasn't easy, though. We didn't have a big budget. We had to hustle, knocking on doors, attending any networking event we could find, and taking on even the smallest projects just to build our portfolio. But we did it. And every time we landed a new client, it felt like a victory. Ray was relentless. He never let me get down. "One day," he would say, "will be a big deal. We're not going to just survive, we're going to thrive." I kept my head down and worked hard. And slowly but surely, Craig Designs started to grow. Clients began to take us seriously. We were winning competitions, earning praise from people who had once ignored us. We weren't just another small agency anymore. We were becoming something bigger. But I couldn't escape the shadow of my past. One day, Ray came to me with exciting news. "We won a competition," Ray grinned, holding up the contract. "This could be the one that puts us on the map." I looked at the contract. It was huge. A major corporation wanted to work with us. I felt a thrill run through me. But then I saw something that made my stomach drop. The company was Olson Designs, my uncle's company, the same company that had fired me. "They're involved in this competition?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Ray nodded. "Looks like it. This is going to be interesting. Let's show them what we've got." I wasn't sure how to feel. On one hand, it felt like fate had given me a chance to prove myself. But on the other hand, I knew what this meant. Winning this competition meant going head-to-head with my uncle. The day of the competition, I tried to stay calm. Ray and I arrived at the venue, and I couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation. We were walking into enemy territory. Olson Designs was a giant, and here we were, a small but determined team ready to take them down. As we walked through the lobby, I saw them. My uncle and Martin. They were standing near the entrance, talking to some important-looking people. When they saw me, Martin smirked. Well, well, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Looks like the failure is here to compete. I wanted to snap back, but I held my tongue. I couldn't let him get under my skin. Ray, ever the optimist, stepped forward with a smile. Hello there. I'm Ray from Craig Designs. He extended his hand, offering a business card. My uncle didn't even look at it. We don't accept business cards from small-scale businesses, he sneered, refusing to take it. Ray didn't flinch. He simply picked up the card that had fallen to the floor and smiled. It's okay, he said softly to me. Let's just focus on winning. I could feel the anger rising in me, but I forced myself to stay calm. We were here to prove something. We didn't need their approval. The competition was intense. The room was filled with top-tier companies. But as the day wore on, it became clear. Our proposal was better. Ray and I worked tirelessly, tweaking and refining our pitch, and when the results were announced, our team came out on top. We had won. When I received the news, I couldn't help but smile. It felt like a dream. We had done it. We had beaten Olsen Designs, and I had finally gotten the recognition I deserved. As the months passed, business boomed. Our phone never stopped ringing. We were gaining clients faster than we could handle. The office space became cramped, and soon Ray and I were talking about expanding. I looked around at the team we had built, people who respected me, who believed in what we were doing. It was a far cry from the cold, indifferent environment at Olsen Designs. One day, we got a call from A-Toys, a major client that my uncle had once worked with. I picked up the phone, and to my surprise, it was Mr. Holmes, the sales manager. He had a warm voice, and his first words were music to my ears. We've seen your proposal, he said, and we're impressed. We want to work with you. I couldn't believe it. A-Toys was one of my uncle's former clients, but now they were coming to us. The feeling of triumph was overwhelming. We'll be in touch soon, Mr. Holmes continued. But I have to say, your company is on the rise. We're excited to see where this partnership goes. I hung up the phone, shaking my head in disbelief. Ray, we did it. A-Toys wants us. Ray grinned. I knew we could. This is just the beginning. But the surprises didn't stop there. A few days later, Ray and I went to meet with A-Toys in person. When we arrived, Mr. Holmes greeted us, but there was someone else with him, a woman who introduced herself as the assistant. We're pleased to have you here, she said with a smile. President Ward would like to meet you. President Ward? I asked, looking at Ray in confusion. Ray raised an eyebrow. That's the big one, the top guy. A few minutes later, President Ward entered the room. He looked at me, his eyes narrowing. I remember you, he said. You're James Olsen's son, aren't you? I was shocked. Yes, I am. I worked with your parents many years ago, President Ward said with a warm smile. They were a great team. Your mother and father, truly exceptional people. I was speechless. I had only heard negative things about my parents. To hear this man speak so highly of them was a revelation. Your parents were brilliant at what they did, President Ward continued. I have to say, I see the same potential in you. You're carrying on their legacy well. I'm excited to see what we can do together. Tears welled in my eyes. I had always felt like I was living in their shadow, trying to make up for their loss. But now, in this moment, I felt like I was finally living up to their memory. As I left the meeting, I felt like I had truly come full circle. But little did I know, my past wasn't done with me yet. A few weeks later, I ran into my uncle and Martin again. They were desperate. We need you back, my uncle pleaded. The company is falling apart. A-Toys dropped us because of you. Please come back and fix things. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything they had done to me, they were asking for help? I shook my head. No, I said firmly. I'm not coming back. And even if I did, I don't think you could save this company. The damage is already done. I walked away, knowing I had made the right decision. Months later, Olsen Designs collapsed. Martin had led the company to bankruptcy, unable to keep up with the competition. My uncle lost everything, his wealth, his pride, his business. It was a painful end, but it was the result of their own arrogance and poor choices. Meanwhile, Craig Designs continued to grow. Ray and I were now leading a team of talented individuals. Our business was thriving, and I was finally doing what I loved. The success felt even sweeter because it was built on hard work, trust, and the belief that we could do it, despite the odds. Looking back, I realized something important. No matter how hard things got, I had always found a way to push forward. And with people like Ray by my side, I knew that the future was bright. This was only